So we look at, for the first time, at human capital, which is health and education together, as it impinges on the workforce and the productivity of the workforce. And we look at human capital across all the countries in the world and over time. And we find that many countries have been making progress on human capital, but there's been huge variability in how much countries have invested in health and education and how that's translated into improved health and education. If you go back to 1950, and the study only covers the period 1990, but we've looked at the data, the US was way out in front of the rest of the world in terms of human capital. We had far better levels of education, and we did pretty well on test scores, which is another component, so the sort of learning that goes with education. And that was something that actually started back in the late 19th century. And the US was out in front of Europe, the rest of the world. And then what's happened since is we've really stagnated. We have made very little progress at all in improving human capital in the last generation. And many of the other countries in the world, Western Europe, other countries, Australia, New Zealand, Japan, have gone way up in terms of their levels of education and learning and health, and that's meant that we have fallen behind the progress. So we've gone from being really way ahead of everybody to now starting to drop down in the rankings because we're not making further progress. One of the components of human capital is learning, the test scores that we see in the data on reading, science, and math that have been done in multi-country testing programs. And so it's not just the years of schooling that matters for human capital, it's also what you learn in school. And it turns out in the data there's huge variation in what people learn in school. And I think the extent of that variation was also a big surprise to me, that a year of school in Singapore seems to lead to far better test scores than a year of schooling, let's say, in Mexico. Human capital matters, and just the term is an economic term. It goes really right back to one of the original thinkers on the economy, Adam Smith, centuries ago. This notion that the skills and abilities of people who work in the economy are critical to economic performance, economic growth. And we see that. Now that we've measured human capital, we can look at the association with both income per capita. It's very strong, not surprisingly, but even more impressively is that places that have improved human capital, created more, have had faster economic growth. And if you compare the top 25%, top quarter of countries in terms of rates of improvement in human capital to the bottom 25%, on average, annual growth of income per capita is about 1 percentage point per year different. And that's just a huge effect. And so, we believe that ministers of finance, heads of state should care about human capital formation as one of the avenues for accelerating economic growth.